Welcome to our Oboot Zoom session with me and my co-host Aicha, who is 10 years old and currently lives in Tunis, Tunisia. We'll be interviewing our guest changemaker, Tara Todrad-Whitehill, who is based in Istanbul, Turkey. Tara is an award-winning photojournalist and storytelling consultant. She is passionate about gender equality and uses visual storytelling to make sure that global game changers get their stories told. Tara, Tara's work contributes to several sustainable development goals, particularly SDG number 5, gender equality. Aisha will be asking questions to Tara about her background, her journey, her work, her skills, and her impact. We hope that you'll enjoy this session. I'll now be handing over to Aisha to start the interview.
First, what do you do for work?
Call myself a visual storyteller, and a lot of my work is in photography. And so I have a camera and I take it out when I have an assignment and I go out to take pictures or video. And that's what I do a lot for work. But I also work remotely, like online, to coach people and teach people how they can become better at taking photos and video as well, so that I don't always have to go out in the field, but that people can tell a really awesome story that they find and do it with beautiful photos and video.
Wow. So, what was your childhood like?
What was my childhood like? Well, that's a very good question. I like that question. I grew up in New York City. I have one brother who's 3 years younger than me. And I was a pretty big nerd. I love math and science. My dad is an engineer, and I love to do math problems and chemistry and physics. I actually got a degree in engineering when I went to school at the university. So not exactly photography, but it was, I love problem solving. So it's all about problem solving. And I studied really hard. I loved, reading and traveling. My family traveled a lot when I was younger. So we went to some really cool places in the world. And I always enjoyed that. So then it kind of made sense that I would move from New York to Istanbul, because I came here when I was 16 years old and I loved it so much. So I had a great childhood. And I love my parents, and we're still talk every day.
Yeah, cool. So, what kind of games did you like growing up?
Oh, what kind of games did I like? Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. Well, we didn't really have as many computer games as you do now, but we were just at the beginning of it. So there were some online games that were only text-based, if you could imagine that. So there were some cool games like that were just literally like just white text on a black screen. And you could do, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, which way you go and things like that. So I forget the name of those, but that was a favorite of mine. I also really like Scrabble. I enjoy playing with my mom. So it's a word game if you don't know it. And I like, in terms of games, physical games, I love basketball. So I'm pretty tall, and I was never very good at it, but I liked playing it.
So, like, do you like games? Do you like playing them?
I do like games. I don't get enough time to play them these days, but I really enjoy games. It's a nice way to do something different. And now I have a little boy who is just about a year and a half, and he's playing a lot of games. So I'm starting to do a lot more now that I have a baby.
Oh, so are you famous?
Am I famous? Oh, I love that question. I would say that I am not famous to everyone. but within certain circles, people know my name. And sometimes people come up to me and say, "Oh, you're Tara Todrad-Whitehill. I know all about you." So for a couple of people, they like my work a lot. And I've gotten a lot of covers, photos on the front of the New York Times. So I've had over 20 photos on the front of the New York Times. So in little ways, I'm famous. I wouldn't say I'm famous to everyone, but enough famous that I like it and people know me, and I appreciate the recognition.
So, who inspired you?
Who inspired me? Well, in terms of being good work, I would say that my parents were big inspirations for me in terms of being good in school and loving to learn. But in my work, I would say that my biggest inspirations was looking at women photographers, which were not as many as the men photographers, but there's a great woman called Dorothea Lange who took pictures in the 1920s when there was a depression, and or in the 1930s, I guess, 1930, and she took some beautiful, amazing pictures that I always loved, and I loved looking at them when I grew up. So she was a big inspiration for me in terms of photography.
Cool. So, what are your interests outside of work?
That's a very good one. Well, for one, it's now my son. Big interest is hanging out with him. And my husband is a very good cook. So I'm very interested in good food. I love good food. I also love reading, and I love walks outside. We haven't gotten a lot of those recently because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll go back to that. And I love traveling. I love traveling. I love going and seeing new countries and learning about new cultures and smelling new foods. So that's one of those are my biggest interests outside of work.
So, what do you mostly like about your city?
Oh, I love Istanbul because it is on the water. It is always got this beautiful smell of the water that you can get. And it's so many hills that wherever you go, you always get these beautiful views. As a photographer, that's very important to me. It's also very quick to get from here to other places in the world when the airport is working. And it's just a lovely place to live. People are very nice. The food is very good. And I live in a beautiful apartment, and I love this city. It's a very lively city. It has 20 million people. But and there's a lot of noise and traffic, but it also has great places to go. You can never ever find them all. So I love it.
Cool. So, what does your neighborhood look like?
Well, my neighborhood is very, very busy. I live near one of the biggest streets in Istanbul called Istiklal, and it is a big avenue that you can walk down and do a lot of shopping. I kind of feel like it reminds me of 42nd Street in New York City, where everyone's walking very fast and there's lots of things and lots of lights. And it can be a little overwhelming sometimes because it's so busy, but it's great to be so close to everything that's happening. And I am from New York City originally, so I love big cities and I love the noise and the hustle and bustle. So it's great for me.
Okay. So, do you work like in one place, or you need to move to do photos and everything?
I tend to work actually for my photos. I tend to travel a lot. For photo and video, I work a lot in the Middle East and Africa and Europe, and sometimes in the US. And then when I'm home, I don't work with photos as much. I sometimes do it, but mostly I travel on airplanes to go and do work. And then for my, where I tutor people and I coach them to become better, also to take better photos and better video, that can be online like we're doing now, or it could be in person. It just depends. And that could be in Istanbul as well. But right now it's all online.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
So what does your job look like every day?
Well, it depends on when you're asking. Right now, because we're all mostly at home, I get up, I feed my son, we play for a while, and then we have an amazing nanny who comes to help out. And when she comes, I come into this room, which is also our bedroom, and I sit at my computer and I work. And I take breaks for lunch and to play with my son a little bit and to walk outside. But mostly I'm here and I'm just emailing people and doing these kind of Zoom calls and, writing stuff. So, but if I was going out for an assignment, typically I would make sure the night before that all my camera equipment was right, all the batteries were ready, all the cards were ready, and just everything was good. And then I would put my clothes for the next day aside. And then I have like a rolling case. So when I leave, I have a backpack and a rolling case, and I go outside and I go wherever I'm going for my for the assignment. And then I'll take my cameras out, and I have like a couple of cameras and a couple of lenses, and I'll use those for an assignment. Sometimes an assignment can be an hour, sometimes it can be all day. So it just depends. And I have to be prepared, about eating and food and drinks. So I bring some food with me sometimes, like some energy bars and water, so that I can make sure that, I don't get too tired on an assignment if there's not food available. And then I come home.
Ah, okay. So how do you help whoever you are helping? Like, how do you help them?
So that's a very good question. So typically when I'm doing assignments, like if it's for a news story, what I'm doing is helping to visualize the story so that it makes a bigger impact. So if a writer is writing a story and they need specific photos, I go and make sure that I get the most powerful photos for that story. Now, that's when I have an assignment for like a news organization like the New York Times. But then sometimes, for me personally, I'm very interested in women's issues and showing women's stories. So I could sometimes find a story that's really important and really interesting, and then I will try to give that story, the best home so that everyone can understand it better. So my hope is that when people see stories like that, that they understand the subject better and that they connect and say, oh, that person is kind of like me, or, oh, I feel very strongly for that person, so that they don't see them as someone they don't understand or someone on the other side of the world that they don't connect to, but that they actually feel that they can be that person and that person is not so far away. And when we have those kind of feelings, then it's more that we can make the world a smaller place. So, that they can help those people out, understand them better. So I'm hoping that with my work that I create more understanding and connections.
Okay. So what is the coolest thing you did in your job?
Well, I think you remember, I don't know, how old are you, Aicha? How old are you,
I'm
Aicha?
10.
Okay. So
10.
I covered the Arab Spring, not in Tunisia, but in Egypt and in Libya. And I was in Tahrir Square when Mubarak stepped down. And I was surrounded by Egyptians who were so excited and crying and so happy and dancing. And I felt so honored to be there to witness this part of history. I think that that's something that not everyone gets to experience, obviously, when I can be there and see these events that happen. And so, unfortunately, things in Egypt haven't gone as well as people had hoped when the Arab Spring happened there. But the feeling of that hope and people being so excited and just that kind of energy was amazing to experience. And I hope that I was able to capture that with my photos. And in fact, my photo from that day ended up on the front of the International New York Times, which was a very proud moment for me. And I was just overwhelmed with the appreciation for being able to be a part of that moment and seeing it. It was amazing.
So, what type of technology do you use in your work?
That's a good question. Well, I use my cameras. So I have Canon cameras. I have lenses. I have lights. And I use my computer. I can't live without my computer. I use it for editing. I use it for emailing my clients. I use it for my my Zoom calls. I use it for everything. And then I have, you know, software where I edit my photos. I use Photoshop and Photo Mechanic. Those are two softwares. And my phone is very important, obviously, because it helps me stay in contact with people while I'm on the ground and doing assignments. And I can use it for a number of different things. So I have many different apps that I use for work, including one like that shows me where the sun is going to be during a certain time of day, because light is so important to photographers. So I can use an app that tells me, oh, at 4 p.m., the best light will be there. And so that I can use that to take better photos.
Okay. So how do you make money?
That's a good question too. I make money by getting assignments from editors who want me to take pictures for a particular story. I get money when I apply for grants that help me, where I'm very passionate about stories about women's issues and women's empowerment. So I apply for grants so that I can take more photos and more videos and do more stories about that. I also get money when I do workshops online or in person, and for helping people be consulting on projects. So if someone has a project where they need some stuff, I come in and I help them do that. And those are the ways that I make money.
Okay. So what did you study to be prepared to do this work?
Well, as I said, I got my degree in engineering, so I did not get a photography degree, but that's okay because a lot of people decide after university what they're actually going to be. You don't have to think that you have to find the one thing you're going to do in university and then go do it. So I graduated with engineering, but I decided I didn't want to be an engineer and that I really loved photography. So I moved back to New York City and I started assisting people. And assisting means that I would go and help them set up lights and and everything for a shoot, and that I would learn more about the profession. So that's how I started learning about that stuff. Some people go to school for photography. That's another way to do it, but I didn't do that. So I just started learning by training, almost like an apprenticeship.
Okay. So do you work with a team or on your own?
I mostly work by myself, but I do have people that I can ask to be part of the team depending on a project. So I can manage people like up to 20, I've managed up to 20 people at a time on a project. It just depends on what everyone wants. Typically though, I work by myself, but I have a lot of great people that I know that I can also ask to help me and become part of my team if the project needs it.
What's your impact in the world?
I hope that my impact is that I help tell people's stories better so that they can make a bigger impact for themselves, and that I help people learn how to take better photos and video and become better storytellers so that they can create a better impact. So my impact is that I hope I am giving storytelling and storytelling skills to the world so that everyone can understand each other better.
Okay, so how much do you think you helped in the world?
Yeah, it's hard to tell that. That's a good question. I've definitely had people come back to me and tell me very specific examples like, wow, we were able to get so many more people interested in our project, or wow, we really appreciate that these videos or photos have done so well for our organization so they can raise more money. And I don't think it's possible to say that you could say I have affected 100,000 people or 10,000 people or 10 people, but I know that when I work and people give me good feedback, that I know that I've been very successful. And like, for example, I just finished a project that's helping girls all over the world understand their health choices better. But I didn't affect those girls personally. I was helping an organization to tell their story better so that they can help those girls. Now they help girls all over the world. And so maybe like what I was working on could help hundreds of thousands of girls. I hope so, but I won't know exactly the impact. I just know that they are using those tools.
Okay, so do you like your work?
I love my work. I love it. I wouldn't be doing this otherwise. It's not an easy job. You have to love it.
Okay, I have a last question.
Go
When
for
you
it.
were little, did you think you were gonna be a photographer, or when you were little, what did you think you were gonna be?
I think the first thing I wanted to be when I was little was a veterinarian. I loved animals and I loved helping animals. But as I learned more about becoming a veterinarian, I didn't really like what I had to do to get there. I didn't want to study biology. I didn't want to do those kind of things. And then because my dad was an engineer and I was very good at math and science, I was like, okay, so I'll do engineering as a college degree. But I wasn't really sure at that point what I wanted to do. And I don't think I ever really thought I was going to be an engineer. So I think like I didn't really have a good idea until I was at the end of college. And then I thought, I don't want to do engineering. What makes me really happy? And I had taken a couple of photo classes and I was like, I love photography. I think I'm going to try this. And so when I graduated, I went back to New York and I started helping photographers. And that's when I decided I was going to do it. And really what made the most importance to me was when the first time I did a project about women and people really gave me good feedback and they were like, wow, this is really powerful. This has made a big impact on me. And that was the biggest thing. And once I got that, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help people understand women's issues. So that's why I decided, but it took a long time. And I don't think you have to decide when you're very young. Some people do, and that's very lucky. But some people, it takes a long time to figure that stuff out, and it's okay either way.
Okay. So I finished my questions. And do you have questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Do you have any advice for people who want to be like photo storytellers like you? Or yeah.
Well, yes, I have some very good advice. I would say, like, taking pictures is like going to the gym. You have to do it and keep doing it and train your muscles. So your storytelling muscles is the same as going and lifting weights. If you want to do it, then you should do it every day. You should take pictures every day, and you should keep doing it because it will help train your eye. So the more you do it, the more you will understand what's a good photo and what you're looking for and why that's important. Like riding a bicycle, you have to just keep doing it, you know, but you might remember it if you haven't done it for a while, but it's better when you're doing it a lot. So I would say you have to go out there and do it because you love it, not because you're going to become famous or you're going to, you know, get a lot of money. You're doing it because you're passionate and you love taking photos, and you have to decide why you're taking those photos and why you care about it so much. For me, I'm trying to help change the world by making it more connected and making people understand each other better, and by empowering women's stories. That's my passion. And that's why I do what I do. So you have to know what that is and why you do it, and keep that very close to your heart and always remember it, no matter what.
Okay. So now that there's no more questions, thank you, Tara and Aicha, for the good discussion and for all the things we learned today. Thank you, Oboot, for listening to this interview. I can't speak today. Please also tell your friends about Oboot and share our social media links with them. And last but not least, go to www.oboot.co to learn about Oboot and find out about why can't I speak today? Find out about opportunities to collect digital values.
Well, thank you guys. You've been great interviewers. I loved being interviewed by you guys. And I hope that, you know, other people can learn a lot from this discussion. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.